Liam and Serafina lived next door. They were the perfect couple, or so it seemed. Everyone in the quiet suburban street thought so. Their house was always immaculate. The lawn was perfectly manicured, like a green carpet. Flowers bloomed in vibrant colors, a testament to their care. They drove expensive cars. They wore stylish clothes. They always smiled, those bright, polished smiles. They seemed to have it all, a life many would envy, a life many aspired to. They often hosted dinner parties. The invitations were always elegant. The food was always exquisite. The wine flowed freely, good quality wine. Conversations were light, pleasant, and carefully curated. Liam was charming, a successful architect with an easy laugh. Serafina was beautiful, an artist with a gentle voice. They complemented each other perfectly. Too perfectly, perhaps. Their interactions sometimes felt a little staged, like actors playing a role they knew very well. Sarah lived next door. She watched them, not in a prying way at first, just casual observations, the kind neighbors make. But soon, a small seed of unease began to sprout within her. There was something about their perfection. It felt brittle, almost like a carefully constructed veneer. Their smiles, while frequent, didn't always reach their eyes. There was a flicker, a shadow, that passed too quickly to name. It left Sarah with a lingering question mark. Sometimes she would see them in their garden. Liam would be pruning roses with intense focus. Serafina would be reading on the patio, a picture of serenity. But even then, an invisible tension seemed to hang in the air between them. They spoke in low tones. Sometimes, their perfectly coordinated movements seemed a little too precise. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was not quite right with the couple next door. It was a subtle, creeping dread. Creeping. Sarah started paying closer attention. Her curiosity grew. It was more than just idle interest now. It felt like a puzzle she needed to solve. She noticed small things. The blinds in their bedroom window were always drawn. Even on sunny days, lights would flick on and off at unusual hours of the night. Sometimes very late, long after the rest of the street was dark and silent. These were tiny details, insignificant on their own perhaps, but they started to add up. One night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She heard voices from next door, hushed, urgent, angry. She couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was an argument, a serious one. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Complete silence followed. The kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. Sarah lay in bed, her heart pounding. What were they arguing about so fiercely in the dead of night? The perfect couple didn't seem so perfect anymore. A few days later, she saw Liam in their backyard. It was past midnight. He was digging, near the old oak tree at the far end of their property. He had a shovel. He moved quickly, furtively. Sarah watched from her darkened kitchen window. When he finally went back inside, the ground looked disturbed. The next morning, she asked him about it casually over the fence. He smiled his usual charming smile. He said he was planting a new rose bush, a special kind. Sarah nodded, but she didn't believe him. Not entirely. Her observations became more deliberate. She started making notes. Times, dates, odd occurrences. It felt a little obsessive. She knew that, but she couldn't stop herself. The mystery of Liam and Serafina consumed her thoughts. Were they in some kind of trouble, or were they the trouble itself? The question echoed in her mind. She felt a strange compulsion, a need to uncover whatever secret they were hiding so carefully behind their perfect smiles and pristine walls. She had to know. One Tuesday evening, Sarah was watering her plants. She noticed a dark-colored sedan parked down the street. It was unfamiliar. The windows were tinted. Someone was inside. Just sitting there, watching. Sarah felt a prickle of unease. The car was positioned with a clear view of Liam and Serafina's house. It stayed there for over an hour. Then, as silently as it had appeared, it drove away. Who was in that car, and why were they watching the house next door? The questions piled up. The following Saturday, Sarah was tidying her own garden. Near the fence line that separated her property from theirs, she found something. A small muddy glove. It was a child's glove, bright pink, with a little embroidered butterfly. It looked well loved, but also recently dropped. Liam and Serafina didn't have children. Sarah was sure of it. They never mentioned any. No toys ever littered their perfect lawn. No small laughter ever echoed from their silent house. This glove felt completely out of place. Sarah picked it up. It was damp. She decided to ask Serafina about it. Later that day, she saw Serafina taking out the recycling. Sarah approached her, holding the glove. "I found this near the fence," she said, trying to sound casual. "Is it yours?" Serafina stared at the glove. Her face paled, just for a second. Then she composed herself. "Oh no," Serafina said, her voice a little too high-pitched. "It must have blown in from somewhere else, or maybe some children were playing nearby." She didn't meet Sarah's eyes. The encounter left Sarah feeling more disturbed than ever. Serafina's reaction was not normal. It was a lie. Sarah was sure of it. The tension was palpable now. It was like a storm brewing on the horizon. Dark, ominous. Sarah felt a growing sense of dread. A cold fear started to grip her. Something was terribly wrong with the couple next door. The cracks in their perfect facade were widening, and Sarah feared what might crawl out from them. She felt she was on the edge of a dark secret. Sarah couldn't let it go. The image of Liam digging in the night, the child's glove, Serafina's panicked denial. It all swirled in her mind. She had to know what Liam had buried. She waited. She watched. Finally, a Wednesday afternoon arrived. Liam and Serafina drove off in their car. Sarah knew they usually went to the city on Wednesdays. They would be gone for hours. This was her chance. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She felt like a criminal, but she had to do it. She grabbed a small trowel from her shed. She slipped through a gap in the hedge, into their pristine backyard. She went straight to the spot near the old oak tree. The soil was still looser there than the surrounding ground. She started to dig. Carefully, quietly. Her hands trembled. She was terrified of being caught. With every scoop of earth, her anxiety grew. What if she found nothing? What if she found something terrible? After a few minutes, her trowel hit something hard. It was a box. A small, wooden box. It was old and locked. Her breath caught in her throat. She worked the trowel under the lid, prying it open with a sickening crack. Inside, there were no jewels, no money. Instead, there were a few small, old children's toys. A faded teddy bear, a set of colorful building blocks, and a single creased photograph. It was a picture of a little girl, about 5 years old, smiling innocently at the camera. A beautiful child. Beneath the toys, Sarah found something else. A folded newspaper clipping. It was yellowed with age. The headline screamed, "Local girl still missing after 6 months." Sarah's blood ran cold. She read the article. It described the disappearance of a child from a nearby town, years ago. The child in the photograph in the box matched the description perfectly. And then she saw it. The article mentioned the parents, the prime suspects. Their names were different then. But the grainy newspaper photos were unmistakable. It was Liam and Serafina. They had changed their names. They had moved. They had started over, burying their past. The perfect couple. The perfect lie.